I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is the prison planet. So tomorrow is my dad's 75th birthday, and I thought I'd do something to celebrate the occasion by talking about one of his favorite concepts on the channel, which happens to be the title of this episode, namely, the prison planet. My dad likes to talk about the prison planet when things don't go his way, because how would you expect your life to go if you were incarcerated in prison? Would you expect to be comfortable? Would you expect to be safe? Would you expect to be treated with dignity and respect and consideration? It turns out that life owes you exactly nothing. And all arguments to the contrary boil down typically to some form of social idealism or vanity. Life isn't easy down on the prison planet. But this is only just the most obvious application of this concept, so let's go a little deeper. Imagine the world really was just one big prison. Who do you think would be in charge? Do you think it would be the good, righteous, and virtuous people? Or, just humor me for a moment, do you think it might be the biggest, most vicious bullies? Like, isn't that kinda what tends to happen in prison? Isn't the most powerful and domineering people the ones who tend to be in charge? What if the inmates were running the show? Just assuming this one condition, that we live on the prison planet, goes a long way toward explaining the vast majority of world history, which is soaked in blood and fear. Every once in a while, we might get, let's say, a virtuous uprising, led by authentic spiritual leaders and moral authorities, and thank God for them, as they are lights in an otherwise benighted place. But it only seems to be a matter of time before the next generation repeats the sins of the past. When it comes to human affairs, it is better to expect the most vicious bullies to be in charge and be pleasantly disappointed than to expect virtue from the powerful and be outraged. Here's another thing to consider. What is the fundamental attribute of any prison? Obviously, that the inhabitants are not free. Look around you. Do you see angry, fearful, despairing, envious, vain, and ignorant people? Are not these all forms of suffering? And who would freely choose to suffer? So must we not conclude that these people are not free? People on this planet are in chains, generally not literally, but spiritually and emotionally. They have vices and addictions. They are unhappy and distressed. They are stupid and misguided. On the prison planet, we are all incarcerated in some capacity. We all exist in varying degrees of unfreedom, which kinda correlates to the size of our cells. Some people are locked in very small holds and are constrained quite tightly. Others are staying in minimum security prisons and have a bit more space to roam. But don't be fooled, we are all unfree to varying degrees. And why is that? Well, how do people in prison come to be there? Because of something they did in the past. And this is really important to appreciate. Maybe none of us, not our leaders, not their followers, not our parents, not our teachers, not you, not me, maybe none of us are really all that good. Wouldn't that kind of go farther to explain why the world looks the way it does than assuming the opposite? Maybe none of us are all that innocent, which could be why Jesus demanded that he without sin should cast the first stone. If you appreciate the insights on this channel, I would highly encourage you to get your hands on a copy of my book, The Value of Others. Over the course of 432 pages, I delve deep into my economic model of relationships and explain the behavior of both men and women in the game of mating and dating. I also provide a lot of actionable advice on how to get and keep more of what you want in the sexual marketplace. Once you read The Value of Others, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Now, in any prison, there are going to be some people who are more vicious and awful than others. But there typically aren't a lot of wholly innocent people behind bars, right? Obviously, human justice is an imperfect thing, but what we're talking about here is something akin to spiritual justice. What if no one on the prison planet is innocent? What if we're here because we've all become complicated in some kind of crime in the past? You could certainly consider Earth to be a place where people are serving time. For many, it's hell. Life imprisonment without the hope of parole. For some, it's purgatory, an opportunity to atone and work toward their own purification. Indeed, purgatory and hell could be the same place viewed through the lenses of two different intentions. Like in Dante's Divine Comedy, both hell and purgatory are places on earth. Only heaven isn't on this planet. An interesting idea, huh? Now, you might hear all this and think, yes, Orion, it's all very interesting, but even if all you say is true, what could I have done to justify being imprisoned here? I may not be a perfect person, but I certainly don't remember doing anything that would have condemned me to hell. And this, of course, has been a question for all religions throughout history. One answer that several different religions have postulated is karma, or it is the result of the sum of an individual's actions through previous states of existence. Now, karma hasn't really caught on in the West, given the West's deep association with Abrahamic religions that tend to view this as our one and only life. However, this could also be due to the fact that people tend to take things very literally. And so, when someone talks about previous states of existence, they assume he's talking about past lives, which would require a belief in the transmigration of souls. However, leaving aside the ontological truth of this doctrine, which I can't speak to one way or the other, I'd like to suggest that previous states of existence doesn't necessarily have to mean past lives. It's simply an acknowledgement of the unbroken chain of causality that has led you to the present moment. We don't need to postulate past lives to believe in karma. If you consider that the present condition of your consciousness is, at least in that moment, the sum total of your lived experience, then you have lived many lives, an uncountable number of lives in this lifetime already. Sufficient to the day is the evil thereof. The origin of our suffering, our unfreedom, is in our pasts, in what we thought and didn't think, in what we felt and didn't feel, in what we did and didn't do. It was created by the people we used to be, which could be represented metaphorically as our past lives. And the fact that most of us slid into this unfreedom without awareness is hardly surprising. Like, you don't remember your past lives? How much of this life do you remember, my dude? Like, could you recreate a single day as it was experienced within your consciousness? A single hour? A single minute? No wonder we go about complaining that we've been unjustly accused. We're walking amnesiacs, convicts with concussions. So, is there a way out of the prison planet? I'm not sure. But if I were to put my money on any one escape plan, it would be this. Remember. Remember your previous states of existence and consider the intelligence in the causality that has brought you to the present moment of unfreedom. The study of this causality, in conjunction with the execution of your free will, might allow for liberation within the confines of deterministic reality. Who knows? Maybe if you learn your lessons, you'll finally be eligible for parole. I hope I've done my father's concept justice. If you've listened this far, I'd really appreciate it if you could wish him a happy birthday in the comments. I love you, Dad. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please, send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. Other value propositions: anyone looking to join my free weekly newsletter or to book a paid one-on-one consultation with yours truly can do so on my website. There's also my best-selling book, The Value of Others, in which I explore intersexual relationships, and my private member community, The Captain's Quarters, where, among other things, I host bi-monthly live group consultation calls and Q&As with invited guests from all over the internet. It's a great group. Check it out if you are so inclined. The links to everything are in the description below. As always, I appreciate your support, and thank you for listening.